right, so what I've got here is I've got two pieces of clay. Now this one is just dark because I added a black colorant to it, so therefore you can kind of see the process as we are wedging our clay. All right, and I'm going to take a little piece that's roughly the same size. Okay, so this is just to illustrate how the clay is mixing itself together. We won't be using the darker color clay, we'll only be using the lighter color clay, just so you can kind of get that idea, okay? So I'm gonna put these together and you'll be able to see how this actually works from the inside, okay? Now, wedging is fairly physical. It's very similar if you've ever been trained in CPR or first aid. It's very similar to giving CPR, giving the compressions. So what I highly recommend is standing up, okay? Tables should be about waist height, so that should work really well. I've actually put my camera on a separate table because as I'm doing this, it's going to move this table around a little bit because it is kind of a physical thing to do. So don't worry, it's not that hard. It's just something that you're gonna have to actually work at. So just kind of keep that in mind. Now, what you're going to want to do is you're going to take your hands, kind of put them together as if you're making like a butterfly, kind of a thing like that, okay? You're going to put them on top of the clay, and maybe if I put it down like this, it might be a little bit easier to see, so you can see the black and the white side or the gray side, okay? And what I'm going to do is I'm going to push down, just like I'm doing a chest compression and CPR, and forward slightly at the same time, okay? And then I'm going to peel it back up, and I'm going to push down and forward. And I'm going to repeat this motion. Now, the other thing to keep in mind, and I'm going to show you, I call it kind of the coning or possibly the spiral method. There's a couple of different ways of wedging clay. This is one that works for me. You can look up on YouTube and just look up wedging clay and it'll show you 3 or 4 different designs. I think one's called the ram's horn, one's called the circular design, there's all kinds of different ones. I show the coning one just because that's what I'm comfortable with, and it's going to kind of have kind of a cyclical motion, so you'll be able to see that. All right, so I push down and forward, and I'm going to repeat this for quite a while. Okay, we're talking about at least a minute, 2 minutes probably, so that we continue to do that. Now what you're hearing is my table groaning as it moves around, all right? So you'll notice that I kind of roll it in a kind of a diagonal or kind of a spiral motion as I do this, and I push down and I push forward, down and forward. I'm not smearing the clay across the table. That's not gonna help me at all. I'm just kind of just down, a little forward, down, a little forward, okay? And so I'm gonna continue to do this like I said, for about a minute, all right? And I'm gonna go ahead and stop there just so you can kind of see what happens. So when I cut this, we should see kind of a spiraling shape. So you can see in the clay, and I probably should have shown you after the first couple of twists, but you can see how it's kind of spiraled, okay? And what that does is that's mixing it all together. I'm gonna hold this up a little bit closer, but you can also see that this is nice and smooth. There aren't any air pockets, so we've removed the air bubbles, okay? And that's gonna be good. Now, what we're gonna do is we're gonna continue this wedging process, okay? I pick it up, I kind of rotate it at the same time, all right? You're not rotating it a lot, it's maybe a third, maybe a quarter turn at a time, but that's just gonna help mix things together so that all those little clay particles, those little round rectangular brick shapes are going to line themselves up. And this is gonna help the clay become more durable, okay, and more plasticky. All right, so I continue to do that. I wish I could get this table to stop moving. Maybe if I stand on one of the feet here, that'll help. So I do this for about a minute and a half, 2 minutes. All right, and then I kind of roll it back on itself, and then we're gonna check. I'm gonna cut it in 2 or 3 different spots, okay? And what we wanna see is something that looks just about like that. The little light area, that's a little bit of the lighter colored clay that's been mixed in there, okay? Same thing with the bottom one here. That's nice and smooth. There's no gaps or anything like that. And if it's all good, give it a good throw. What that does is when you throw that down, that forces all the air out the sides, and therefore we know that we have clay that's good and ready to begin working. All right, so I'm not necessarily gonna use this darker colored clay. I'll use that for some other project later on, but I'm gonna show you guys your first project right after this.